give us his opinions on this one. Doug, welcome in. What did you think of this move?
Yeah, not surprised. By the time it had all been fleshed out through different media sources, I think most Nets folks could see it coming that this was going to happen. It had entered basically a when, not if stage. So it really wasn't surprising to see it happen. I think once you do some mental gymnastics around, the like the fit and stuff and like where the different situations are, both from the Simmons and Harden side, I think both sides can talk themselves into it. The Nets fans for sure, and Nets folks for sure can. So I think at this point, you start envisioning how it's going to kind of lay out for Brooklyn. And it was probably by the end something that basically just needed to happen, especially where you considered how some of the narrative had gone around Harden specifically in Brooklyn, because it was just kind of turning into a mess.
Let me hop in here, Doug. I just mentioned the potential fit here offensively. How do you see Simmons? If you have everybody back, let's assume by the playoffs, maybe you have Kyrie Irving back. How do you see Simmons fitting in?
Oh yeah, so he's totally different than Harden. So you can't just swap him into the Harden role 1-to-1 because they couldn't be any more different on the basketball court. So I think like that part of it, you have to move into a different direction with how the Nets offense is going to run. The good news is that when you have Kevin Durant on your team, and I would say to some degree Kyrie Irving too on offense, they're so dynamic and versatile that you can slot a different like kinds of guys into the offense and have it work. You'll probably see Simmons wanting to push the pace a lot with transition. The Nets can be very, very good from that perspective, and that will probably almost overnight change their pace of play, as opposed to having Harden taking, what felt like 18 seconds to get the ball up the court sometimes. And then on offense, you'll probably see him slot more into like this screener, short roll kind of guy who can help with where the spacing already is by adding a guy like Seth Curry. That really, really helps, especially in the short term for shooting. And the Nets have already employed this kind of offense before through guys like Bruce Brown, through guys like DeAndre Bembry, where if they can catch the ball in the short roll and make quick reads, the Nets at a full strength team, especially if you get Joe Harris back, which is feeling like a big if at this point. With that kind of spacing, Simmons can really, really thrive in that, I think. And so while it's not going to be a James Harden centric offense, like it kind of had been, you can really start picturing how the pieces fit, because essentially the thing that Simmons does the most poorly, which is shoot, should be covered by basically everybody else on the team. And at that point, with spacing around him, we've seen him be a very dynamic offensive player through his creativity. So I there's a lot of ways I can kind of see it working. It's just going to look very different than what they had with James Harden, which when it was firing all cylinders was great. And that had kind of stopped right now because of some circumstances beyond Harden's control.